What's up, YouTube fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. Shout out to our sponsors, Cool Green Clothing, for sponsoring the Baltimore Way. Thank you so much for your support. In this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing the case of two working girls whose lives were ended tragically, which resulted in the assailant receiving 2 life sentences. Before we get into this video, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you're new here, tap that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button, comment down below and share your thoughts. Of course, always keeping it respectful. Feel free to share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's go ahead and get right into it. On March 22nd, 2022, at approximately 12:42 a.m., Baltimore police were flagged down by a young woman on the 2400 block of Annapolis Road in the Westport neighborhood in Baltimore. The young woman led them back to the home where she found her family member, 21-year-old Danita Barrett, lying on her living room floor, unresponsive. Her body was covered with a towel that was placed on her by her family member who had found her. When medics arrived, the 21-year-old mother of 2 was pronounced deceased at the scene. The medical examiner would later confirm she passed away from asphyxiation. Police labeled her death as suspicious. Family members of Danita Barrett told police that she was operating as a working girl at her home, and her dates were solicited through text apps. The last conversation in Danita's phone was from March 21st, the day investigators believe she had died. Danita discussed prices and times to meet with a man who was a possible suitor that night. Investigators continued to gather evidence and began their investigation into what happened to Danita Barrett. 6 days later, on March 28, 2021, at approximately 11:30 a.m., an employee of the Deluxe Plaza Hotel in the 6400 block of Pulaski Highway called 911. The employee reported finding an unresponsive woman in a room after the occupants in that room did not check out that morning. Police officers and medics found the woman laying face down on the floor when they arrived. She was pronounced deceased at the scene. The victim was identified as 37-year-old Ashley Lambert, a mother of 4. According to charging documents, the room Ashley Lambert stayed in was paid for by an unidentified person who was not involved in her slaying. Ashley's death was ruled as asphyxiation and classified as a homicide according to charging documents. According to later news reports, while investigating Ashley Lambert's death, police used surveillance camera footage recovered near the motel and saw Ashley with an unidentified man. Investigators tracked the man's movement to a nearby donut shop. While looking into the purchase he made with a Visa debit card, police obtained a receipt from the purchase, and they were able to identify the man as 22-year-old Christopher Tyson and confirmed it after they subpoenaed his bank statements. In addition, the charging documents state police were able to track Christopher Tyson's cell phone to a residence in the 2200 block of Bryant Avenue. The news report continued to say that officers were able to obtain a search warrant for the home. Charging documents state when no one answered, officers used a battering ram to enter the residence. Officers found Tyson on the second-floor apartment, and he was arrested without incident. Once police began to question Christopher Tyson, he initially gave several different versions of events that contradicted the evidence. Investigators had recovered at the motel and inside his residence. However, investigators wrote when Christopher Tyson was shown the images recovered from that surveillance footage they obtained, he identified himself as the person seen in the images. He ultimately confessed to the slaying of Ashley Lambert. On April 26, 2021, almost a month after Ashley's slaying, 22-year-old Christopher Tyson was charged with first-degree and second-degree murder in connection with Ashley Lambert's death. Police had also listed him as a person of interest in a similar case. However, at the time, officials did not say what case they were referring to. 3 days later, on Thursday, April 29, 2021, police identified what that other case was. Christopher Tyson was a person of interest in the connection to Danita Barrett's slaying. The 21-year-old woman who was found deceased in her home 6 days before Ashley Lambert's body was found. However, police had not yet released what evidence led them to implicating Christopher Tyson in Danita's death. Later that evening, police released his booking photo. They said they did this in hopes it would encourage other possible victims to come forward. Detectives did not rule out the possibility that Christopher Tyson could have committed other acts where the victims may not have reported the incident. At the time, homicide detectives were investigating why he targeted Ashley and Danita. According to the Baltimore Sun, Christopher Tyson faced previous charges of violence, especially against women, including an open case at the time in Anne Arundel County where he allegedly stabbed his sister and brother in October 2021. Police said in that incident, he punched his sister several times after she asked him to get off a couch at the house where he and his siblings were staying. According to reports, when his two brothers intervened, police say Christopher Tyson grabbed a weapon from the kitchen and stabbed his sister and one of his brothers in their right arms before he fled the scene. He was charged with multiple charges, but the most serious assault charge was dropped by prosecutors. He was put on house arrest, but months later, a judge granted that he be released on his own recountenance on February 5, 2021, on the condition he stayed with an aunt in Severn, Maryland. Back then, he had shown up for a court date on March 31st. 3 days after Ashley Lambert's body was discovered. The news reports went on to say that prior to that incident with his siblings, Christopher Tyson had numerous cases, open and closed, where he was charged with assault against women in 2020. A couple of those cases involved his girlfriend at the time. Police reports say that officers had to physically separate him and his girlfriend in an altercation in January 2020. He was charged but then acquitted a month later, court records show. In March 2020, police received a disorderly conduct call alleging Mr. Tyson and a woman had been arguing. Charging documents state that Mr. Tyson slapped the woman during the argument and he was charged with assault again. In August 2020, a judge placed that case on an inactive docket. I also read about a case that happened in February 2019, where a woman going into a gas station witnessed Mr. Tyson allegedly arguing with the woman and screaming at her. When the woman returned to her car, she told police she saw Mr. Tyson punch the woman he was screaming at, knocking her unconscious. The woman got out of her car and approached Mr. Tyson, allegedly, and told him to move away from the unconscious woman. She said in the report that she was going to call the police. According to reports, when Mr. Tyson saw the woman calling the police, he swung at her face, which only lightly struck her because she reacted quickly. The woman then got back in her vehicle and locked the doors. The report went on to say that Mr. Tyson then picked up the unconscious woman, dragged her back to the car, and tried to wake her up, all while the woman who witnessed what had happened took pictures of the situation while she was on the phone with police. It didn't stop there. The report went on to say that eventually the unconscious woman regained consciousness, and both she and Mr. Tyson allegedly approached the woman's car. After an unsuccessful attempt to enter the woman's car, the report says Mr. Tyson sat on the hood of the car. The woman was able to drive away a short distance until the police arrived. The report said by that time, Mr. Tyson and the woman had left the scene. The woman showed police the photographs she had taken of what happened, along with the license plate of the car the woman, who he allegedly knocked unconscious, was driving. With that information, police obtained a photograph of Mr. Tyson from the woman who witnessed the alleged crimes, and she positively identified him. A jury found him guilty of assault in that case. The court sentenced him to 5 years imprisonment, with all but 18 months suspended, in favor of 4 years probation. Christopher Tyson would go on to appeal the court's decision in October 2021, claiming that the court abused its discretion in admitting certain photographs into evidence. However, the court subsequently denied his appeal. Now, as the investigation continued into Ashley Lambert and Danita Barrett's case, police revealed that Christopher Tyson had arranged to pay for a date with Danita Barrett. According to reports, detectives found a cell phone, later identified as Christopher Tyson's, and 2 unwrapped male contraceptives on a couch located near Danita. The forensic investigators saw no signs of visible trauma after arriving at the scene, but charging documents later revealed that there were visible injuries to her face and neck. According to reports, police also linked Danita's last conversation in her phone to Christopher Tyson. Police say he was the man she was negotiating prices and times to meet with that day. When detectives initially questioned him, Christopher Tyson admitted to police that he used apps to solicit women who operated as working girls. He initially denied asking Danita Barrett for a date, but later admitted that he went to her residence to have intimate relations with her. He went on to tell police he began joking with her about her line of work. He allegedly called her out her name and said she became angry and attacked him. According to reports, he admitted to restraining Danita around her neck until she passed out. He said he checked for a pulse before he left her home and thought she was still alive, charging documents said. In Ashley Lambert's case, after Christopher Tyson admitted that he was the person in the images police obtained from the camera footage, he also told police he met Ashley online and agreed to pay to be intimate with her. According to reports, Christopher Tyson told detectives they got into an argument and he strangled her with a chokehold. The medical examiner's office later found blood on her face. They noted that it appeared that she had not dressed herself and determined that she was suffocated to death with a maneuver-like chokehold, reports said. He was charged with 2 first-degree murder charges in connection with both Ashley Lambert and Danita Barrett's slaying and was awaiting trial. After more than 2 months of plea negotiations, Christopher Tyson rejected the prosecution's plea offer in front of a judge on November 18, 2021. In court that day, a judge listened as the prosecution presented a plea of 2 concurrent life sentences for the charges against Christopher Tyson. The next trial date was set for May 10, 2022. On Tuesday, May 10, 2022, during a plea hearing for Christopher Tyson, prosecutors recounted for the court what they said happened to both 21-year-old Danita Barrett and 37-year-old Ashley Lambert. The families of the 2 women slain wept in the gallery of the 4th floor courtroom when their loved one's alleged killer accepted 2 concurrent life sentences with the possibility of parole. On Tuesday morning, the family members of Danita Barrett and Ashley Lambert consoled one another and addressed the court. "You tore my family apart," Danita's sister said, looking at the defendant through tears. Danita's grandmother also spoke, adding that Danita's 2 children won't grow up with a mother and that she cries every time she looks at them because they look so much like her. A member of Ashley Lambert's family told the court that she felt bad for Christopher Tyson's parents. "I don't wish him to be killed," she told the judge. "I'm not that kind of person, but I know God is going to take care of him in the end." She also acknowledged Christopher Tyson's eligibility for parole, saying that if he gets out of jail, he'll be right back to where he started. Ashley Lambert's family said she loved music, travel, and was known for her sense of humor, the report said. They said Ashley enjoyed road trips with her nieces while listening to her favorite tunes. Christopher Tyson apologized to both families. The Baltimore Sun reported that he was being defended by the Office of Public Defender on R-word charges stemming from an incident that happened approximately a month after Danita Barrett's and Ashley Lambert's slayings. The Sun said the same prosecutor that handled that case was prosecuting the R-word case against Christopher Tyson. However, an article from Baltimore Witness Online says, as a result of Mr. Tyson's pleas, the prosecution agreed to dismiss another case against him involving the R-word, unlawful offenses, assault, armed robbery, theft, and the use of a deadly weapon in a 3rd incident that occurred on April 24, 2021. The prosecutor said the victim in that case said she felt lucky to be alive and didn't want to take away from those who didn't survive by pursuing those charges. The article went on to say that at the conclusion of the hearing, Christopher Tyson's defense attorney informed the court that they will file a motion to modify his sentence and requested he serve his time at the Patuxent Institution for Mental Health Issues. The judge said they needed more time on the institution before making a ruling. This story is terribly heartbreaking. Before you go judging these women and their profession they chose to make a living, please be sensitive to the fact that they had family and friends that loved and cared for them. They were mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, and much more. The man accused of taking their lives had no right to take their lives so viciously, to make fun of what they did when he was the one who allegedly solicited them for their services. I believe that Christopher Tyson is a sociopath with absolutely no regard for life. My opinion is he has a vendetta, a real hatred for women, period. He thought he was superior to them and that he had the right to use violence when he couldn't control them. I know that he will get his eternal judgment one day, and he will have to answer for what he did to those women. May Danita Barrett and Ashley Lambert rest in peace. My deepest and sincerest condolences to their family and loved ones, respectively. I pray that they receive some closure and peace in all this. I pray for their children and that God may guide their paths as they navigate life after such tragedy. All right, fam, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you'd like, share some encouraging words to the family of the victims or to anyone who has gone through this type of horrific experience. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate the support. Thank you so much for watching. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.
On YouTube, fam. This your boy Tony 2 Times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story. Subscribe if you're new to the fam. Hit that notification bell for future uploads. Let's get right into it. Street beefs and street justice goes hand in hand. Sometimes when a person or block is at war with someone else or another neighborhood, it leaves everyone in the community on point, watching to make sure nothing happens. The word scared doesn't exist in certain environments. How many people we all know that knew they were at war or had money on their heads, still going to the same blocks, same stores, and end up getting caught slipping, as if they already accepted their fate instead of playing it smart or safe. The crazy thing is, you can have lookouts, guns everywhere on the block, a gun on you, and still be hit. It's all about timing and who got the drop first. People lose their lives with blicks on them all the time. Like I told y'all on a previous video, carryouts and corner stores are death traps. No way out if someone comes in letting off shots. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing a crazy case in which the suspected shooter got shot himself in the middle of the hit and ended up with 75 years in prison. According to sources, on October 28, 2017, BPD was called to a spot about shots fired in the location of a carryout in the 1800 block of Emerson Avenue. Once they arrived, they spotted a man still sitting on a bench inside of the store, unresponsive, already gone, bleeding from his head. The victim was identified as 44-year-old Philip Johnson. As investigation started, multiple shell casings was on the scene, but also surveillance cameras and video showed a man entering the store with a sweatshirt on and quickly running out towards Monroe Street. The victim, Philip, allegedly had a blick on him as well, and 2 different caliber bullets were recovered from the scene, 40 cal and 9mm, along with a styrofoam cup with blood on it. But all the evidence didn't add up. Later that night, a 34-year-old man named Michael Campbell walked into St. Agnes Hospital stating he was shot while walking to a bar and caught a ride to the hospital. Michael was hit twice in his arm and once in his back. He had on a gray sweatshirt and jeans that were held by the hospital as they contacted BPD about a walk-in gunshot victim. Following protocol, officers went to St. Agnes to interview the man, who stuck to the story. He didn't know who shot him, but as BPD saw the clothes in the hospital, it matched the clothes the shooter that entered the carryout was wearing earlier that day. Police also searched the car that drove Michael to the hospital and allegedly found the gun on the passenger side floor. As the gun was tested, it matched the bullets from the carryout hit of Philip. But the question was, how did Michael get hit? Police took Michael into custody and charged him with murder and gun possession. After going back to the scene to talk to witnesses, it was stated that a car pulled up a few blocks from the carryout. The driver was a woman, and the man jumped out the passenger side with a gray sweatshirt, walked around to the carryout, and people heard shots. Then he ran out. But allegedly, as the man was running back to the getaway car, another man on the block opened fire on the shooter, and he was hit twice in the arm and once in the back before hopping in the whip. With all the evidence, clothes, murder weapon, and DNA, the charges against Michael stuck, even though he claimed he was a victim and never shot nobody. As the case made it to trial, the surveillance video was shown, also the gun and clothes. Michael's lawyers argued the case was circumstantial, and the witnesses never saw the shooter's face, but prosecutors painted a picture of a premeditated hit as a car circled the block twice before a man saw his target and went in for the hit, not knowing someone else on the block had a gun and would shoot back. Eventually, Michael was found guilty of the hit on Philip and sentenced to 75 years in prison. More of this story, street justice can go a lot of ways. I'm sure if someone is going to do a hit, they are not expecting to become a victim themselves. Anybody can be touched. It's all about who has to drop first. One person lost their life in the carryout, and another lost their life to the system. I don't know what the issue was, but like I always say, the state got 2 for 1. Think about it like this. Count how many people you know who got killed, and how many people you know got locked up for bodies. Times that by other people in your community. Hundreds of us gone every year, either to the grave or prison, falling for one of the biggest setups in history. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, crazy story, crazy situation. So yeah, allegedly, Michael went to make his move, you feel me? Whatever the situation was between him and Philip, it couldn't be resolved. He sent them in the carryout. He peeped them out. He went in there, shots was fired. But they saying when he came out, somebody else on the block was blicking off at him. But I was thinking Philip had a blick on him. I ain't understand if they saying two different shell casings was found in the carryout, how they knew that Philip ain't blicked back. But they saying it wasn't Philip, they saying it was somebody else on the block, you feel me? They never got jammed up for it, whoever the shooter was. A lot of times when you pull up on certain neighborhoods, the block be protected. They already know what's going on. They know who coming in, they know who coming out, and they probably seen Michael and knew that he wasn't supposed to be around there, or if he was supposed to be around there, they probably felt as though he was about to do something to somebody they loved on that block. So they was already ready and waiting for it to go down. And when he came out, they tried to hit him. And it be like that, man. It's a lot of different ways it could have went, you feel me? A lot of times, man, when police get there, the streets know what's going on, but the police only know bits and pieces, you see what I'm saying? So yeah, man, crazy situation, you feel me? But Michael ended up getting 75 years at the end of the day because he had to go to the hospital, He was hit, he was hurt, he was hit in the back. He probably was scared for his life, not knowing if he was gonna make it. Crazy how that played out, man. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this one, man. Rest in peace to the man that lost his life. You feel me? At the end of the day, I send my prayers and condolences to his family. Let me know what y'all think about this one. Be sure to tap that like button. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Love, fam. I'm out. What is going on, YouTube, fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. It's a lot of information, so try to keep up with me. For all the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. In the streets, plans are meant to be broken. For example, if you are a robber, you could say I'm gonna go on missions from Monday to Friday and then chill. But the streets make their own rules. You might up that blick, get it took from you by somebody, and become a victim yourself. Or you could go on that move, and the person you up on and tell to kick it out, take off. Now you have to decide what to do. Or you could simply get pulled over with your own gun and catch a charge by Thursday and not make it to Friday. Basically, it's a dangerous lifestyle that you always hope for the best for, but expect the worst. And one thing we should all know by now, the streets are unforgiving. It's a dirty game. And when groups of people on the same type time run across each other, it could play out either way, depending on circumstances. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will take it back to 2014 to discuss a case of two groups of young men and a fatal encounter. Back in 2014, two friends were trying to navigate life in Baltimore. They were at the time 20-year-old Jonathan Watkins and his right-hand man we will call Ant. Ant had got put out his mother's house. And being that him and Jonathan were tight since the 6th grade, he was able to stay with him at his mother's house. But trying to make some money, it quickly became the two staying out late, making moves on a late night. And on September 18th, the two men pulled the all-nighter. Even slept in the stairwell of an apartment building in the area they were hanging at, which was Baltimore County's Law&Crime. The apartment building was located on Sedgemore and Marson Street. That following morning, they headed to a Dunkin' Donuts to use the store's Wi-Fi and just was outside cooling. As night fell, they decided they wanted to pull some robberies, equipped with a duffel bag with a rifle in it. The plan was to post up at the apartments, hide the gun under the steps, and rob whoever came by, looking like they had something worth taking, but no women. Some people had walked by, but they were older, so Jonathan and Ant decided to spare them. But about 1:15 a.m., now on September 20th, 3 young men with hoodies walked by. One of the men was in front by a few feet. The other two followed behind. The man in front had on a blue and gray hoodie with a hat on. Jonathan asked him, like, yo, you got a fug? Or for out-of-towners, a cigarette? The young man said, nah, yo, but I got some grass. Ant and Jonathan said they were good on that. One of the men in the group of 3 was at the time 19-year-old Charlie Jones, who was a college student in Virginia, but was coming back home to Baltimore to go to a local college and get his GPA up. While Charlie and the other 2 walked down Sedgemore, a maroon truck pulled up in front of Jonathan and Ant, creeping slow, asking if they was trying to cop something again. The 2 declined. The truck then continued to the street and pulled over on the side of Marson on the 3 young men. The one with the blue and gray hoodie on talked to a man in the back seat of the truck before bopping back down to ask Ant and Jonathan again, was they sure they didn't need anything. Jonathan pointed out to the man in the back seat, like, yo, you know me, in which the man we will call you stated from where. Jonathan hollered out a few names, stating through them 2. The truck reversed, and you hopped out the back seat to continue the conversation with Jonathan, saying, oh, all right, that's cool, but y'all be careful. I heard they robbing out here. And you bopped back to the truck, but not before calling Shorty in the blue hoodie back to talk to him. Saying a few more words, the truck then pulled off, and the 3 men kept bopping. Jonathan and Ant stayed by the building. About 45 minutes later, about 2 a.m., a blue Nissan crept by. Ant and Jonathan peeped it, but paid it no mind. Minutes later, Shorty from earlier with the blue and gray hoodie walked behind Jonathan, and a shot went off, striking him in the head. Ant ducked and went for the rifle under the step, but the shooter ran to a nearby house where the blue Nissan was parked at and hopped in. Jonathan was down. Ant, in panic mode, attempted to wake him up before realizing he wasn't moving. Ant then ran to the Shell gas station, telling them he needed to use the phone to call police, but it was late and the store was only open through the glass window. They gave Ant some change to find a payphone, but he instead walked to Jonathan's mother's house, who at the time they both were staying with, and told her what happened. Back at the crime scene, police had been called and found the young man laying in the street by Sedgemore, suffering from a gunshot wound to the head, unfortunately already gone. Later that day, detectives spoke to a neighbor who said he was headed to the store on a late night when he saw a blue Nissan parked at a neighbor's house who he knew well. He was surprised because he didn't recognize the car. Also, his neighbor worked overnight, so he shouldn't have been home. Shortly after, he heard a loud pop and saw a man with a blue and gray hoodie run off and get into the car. Detectives got surveillance video from the gas station that showed a blue Nissan pull up at the store earlier before the shooting. 3 young men, including Charlie, started walking in the neighborhood. The car was identified as the getaway vehicle. Police in the area eventually ran the plates of the car. It was registered to a young man's mother, who we will call Rob. Police started following Rob around the area in unmarked cars days after the shooting, placing tracking devices on the vehicle before eventually enough probable cause gave them permission to search his home, finding a gray and blue hoodie and a hat, the same outfit wore by the shooter. Rob was taken to homicide for questioning. He told police he picked up his homie from work the night of September 19th at 11 p.m. Charlie was already with him. The men were just smoking, chilling, then headed to the store for some snacks. They parked the car and hopped out on feet to hopefully see some girls. Not long after, they ran across Ann and Jonathan. Rob stated he didn't know the men. When questioned about the man in the blue and gray hoodie, he stated it was Charlie. Police quickly presented Rob with the footage of his vehicle driving off after the shooting and told him if he stated what happened, he would not be charged with driving a getaway car from a murder. He stated you was in the back seat of the maroon truck they saw that night and called Charlie to the whip to discuss the area and who were the two men posted up. Rob stated he later saw you walking and him and Charlie picked him up. He overheard you state, "Don't waste my bullets," and gave Charlie a blick because he wanted to walk to a home in the area, telling him, "Take this because you know them dudes still out there and they robbing." But the conversation quickly turned to you telling Charlie, "If you don't shoot, I will." Then Rob stated, confused, he dropped Charlie off down the street on Sedgemore and then dropped you off at his home. While parked, he stated Charlie ran to the car, stating drive off. Confused, Rob said he did what he was told. Before all this happened, earlier that night, they first dropped off his man, who he picked up from work, at his house in Essex. But after realizing they were caught, Rob broke, allegedly stating Charlie shot that boy. Eventually, Charlie was tracked down and questioned. He stated he was back in town from college and was trapping for you to make a few extra dollars, stating he didn't know Ant or Jonathan, but stated you wasn't feeling the fact they were in the area. But Charlie stated he asked Rob to drop him off. After he got out, he heard a loud pop and saw Rob and you pull off, stating you was the shooter. Police asked what was he wearing. He told them a blue and gray hoodie, a hat, and True Religion jeans. Police told Charlie they already know he was wearing that, and it was surveillance and witness statements showing him running, in which he stated he was scared as he heard the shots. Then he saw Ant with a rifle, so he ran. Detectives placed Charlie under arrest and charged him with the murder of Jonathan. While in custody, detectives also were hot on another young man's trail in the area. Unaware he was being watched, he was pulled over with a blick, a .32 semi-automatic. When ballistics was done on the gun, it was found to be the same gun used to hit Jonathan. With statements, the blick, and everything, the charges would stick to Charlie. While awaiting trial, he made a mistake on a recorded jail phone, allegedly stating he was mad Rob told police, and now he had to play the good boy role and fake cry in court, saying I'd be bluffing. That would come back to hunt him though. When the trial date came, February 1st, 2016, the state had multiple witnesses, including Ant, Rob, neighbors, surveillance footage, and a weapon. When Charlie took the stand in his own defense, prosecutors asked him how he grew up, in which he stated he was adopted into a good family, played sports, went on vacations and church, even went to college. But that was the bait. Prosecutors asked if you know right from wrong, and as a man of God, you say you didn't shoot Jonathan, but you did. Why didn't you call the police? Charlie's lawyers tried to object, but it was too late. Also, prosecutors came in with the jail call conversation, stating if you didn't do it, why be mad your friend told police? With all this evidence, Charlie was eventually found guilty of murder and sentenced to life, all suspended but 45 years in prison. Rest in peace to Jonathan. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to his family. This seems like a situation of young men trying to find a way that went wrong. Jonathan had a home, but was outside with his mans trying to ride with him, right or wrong, which is respectable, but comes with consequences. As for Charlie, it seems like he came from a good family. Shorty was in college, and within a few months, threw it all away by listening to somebody he was hustling for, trying to get the other two off the block. The type time the two groups was allegedly on was a dangerous combination and the recipe for disaster. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, crazy story. Rest in peace to Jonathan. You know, I ain't gonna talk y'all head off with this one. Y'all heard the story. Let me know what y'all think about it in the comments. Remember to definitely be respectful Y'all already know it's all love, fam. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. This your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.
What's up, YouTube fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. In this episode of the Baltimore Way, I will tell the story about a case that happened over 10 years ago, where a couple held a woman against her will after she moved in with them. Before we get into this video, please don't forget to subscribe if you're new to our channel. Go ahead and click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button. Feel free to share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. Alright, let's get right into it. Imagine you and your family needed a place to stay. So you talk to a friend and they offer for you and your family to come stay with them. You accept the offer because, that's your friend and you trust them, right? Well, for a 22-year-old Baltimore woman, a similar situation took place. But things took a strange and monstrous turn and she barely made it out alive. It was about December 2009 when a couple, Kimberly King and Jermaine Smith Bay, opened their home to a young woman who I will call Hope for the sake of this video. Hope's infant son and her boyfriend also came to live with the couple and their 2 children at their apartment on Brookberry Drive in West Baltimore County. According to reports, an employee who worked at the apartment building where the couple lived described the man Jermaine as surly, often unkempt, and the employees said they sometimes saw him sitting on his second floor balcony, acting despondent and smoking cigarettes. They also said he would sometimes try to sell CDs and other household items. The woman, Kimberly King, was described as heavier built, weighing around 300 pounds, according to documents. Residents said they would see her talking to other neighbors from time to time, but didn't know too much about her. Other residents said they would mainly see the couple when they took their children to school. According to sources, at some point during the time Hope started staying with Kimberly and Jermaine, Hope's boyfriend was kicked out of the home. The reason for that is unclear. So it was then just Hope and her baby. After Hope's boyfriend was gone, things took a twisted and violent turn. Instead of being a house guest, Hope became a prisoner, allegedly never being allowed to leave the house, and suffered tremendously at the hands of the couple she stayed with. On August 25th, 2010, a 22-year-old woman was taken to Greater Baltimore Medical Center and was listed in critical condition. The young woman was Hope. Hope's condition was absolutely horrifying. According to reports, she was beaten so badly and emaciated, only weighing 86 pounds. Reports showed she was treated for fractures of the ribs, tailbone, and spine. She had cigarette burns and neck injuries consistent with an attempted strangulation. According to police, Hope was punched so much that her face was disfigured. According to reports, Hope was driven to the hospital by the people she had been living with. Almost a month later, in September 2010, arrests were made in connection to Hope's near-death condition. Baltimore County Police charged Jermaine Smith, 29, and Kimberly King, 37, of Reisterstown with attempted murder, assault, and false imprisonment. The couple was accused of holding Hope against her will for nearly a year, tied up in the bathroom of their apartment. Hope's son had been taken into the care of social services. Police say they believe Jermaine and Kimberly were holding Hope captive so they could get a hold of her Social Security income. The couple was held at the Baltimore County Detention Center without bail. 2 years later, in June 2012, at a sentencing hearing, more details about the heinous ordeal was revealed. According to prosecutors, Jermaine Smith Bay tied the victim's hands and legs, beat her, cut her, and scalded her with hot water. Kimberly King, prosecutors said, knew of the abuse but did nothing to stop it and told their victim, who I'm referring to as Hope, she was not allowed to leave the house. Hope was not even allowed to hold her own child, court records said. According to reports, the prosecutors told the court that Hope said that Jermaine attempted to be intimate with her without her consent on at least 2 occasions. Seminal fluid stains with Jermaine's DNA were found on the sweatshirt Hope wore to the hospital. Prosecutors also said in court that when the couple left to take a 2-week vacation in Florida, they asked a third person, who I'll refer to as Bob, to take care of their pets and their captive, Hope. This house sitter was allegedly told to keep Hope locked in the bathroom, prosecutors said. Reports went on to say that Jermaine called Bob in August 2010 and urged that Hope be taken to the hospital. Court testimony revealed that on the way to the hospital, Kimberly King made up a story that she and Bob, the house sitter, had picked up Hope on Greenmount Avenue near 25th Street, prosecutors said. But when they took Baltimore City Police to the area, footage from a nearby surveillance camera showed that the victim was never at that location. According to court records, the house sitter Bob was also charged in the case. Bob was found guilty of false imprisonment in August 2011 and was sentenced to 1 year and 6 months in prison. According to reports, when it was Kimberly King's turn to speak in court, she said she took in the young woman who was trying to escape an abusive relationship. Kimberly King said she took care of Hope, bought things for her child, and fed her well. She said she's known for her cooking, especially spaghetti and steaks. She said in court, "I'm a good person." But the judge wasn't having it and responded by saying this: "All it would have taken was one person to stop it. I reject all of your remarks of what a good person you are." Then, when it came to Jermaine Smith Bay's testimony, several family members spoke of his troubles after suffering abuse of an intimate nature as a child. They also spoke about a history of mental illnesses in the family, which also afflicted him. The judge told Jermaine's family, "I'm sorry for your loss as well. I feel your pain." However, she reiterated that it takes only one person to say no. The motive behind the couple's catalyst actions was money, investigators said. The couple's goal seemed to be to collect Hope's Social Security benefits, which they did collect for several months. They were accused of withdrawing the money using the victim's ATM card. In addition to Hope's injuries, she suffered a staph infection, bed sores, and was blinded in one eye because of the repeated punches she endured, court records revealed. Hope, 25 at the time, sat in the corner of the courtroom as she listened to her captors receive their fate. The judge sentenced Jermaine Smith Bay to 50 years in prison for false imprisonment, assault, and attempted R-word. Kimberly King was found guilty of false imprisonment, assault and abuse, and physical injury to a vulnerable adult, and was sentenced to 40 years behind bars. Fam, this story is beyond insane. I pray the victim, who I called Hope in this video, is doing well as she can be. Her name was not revealed in any reports for obvious reasons. It's by the grace of God she made it out alive. I also hope that her son is doing well. I can't imagine the trauma this young mother had to endure at the hands of two psychopaths. I hope that with time her wounds continue to heal, not just physical wounds, but her mental and emotional scars as well. These two predators preyed on a young woman who suffered from a disability and was probably very trusting and vulnerable. It makes me cringe that there are monsters out here like that. I don't believe for a minute that Kimberly King didn't know about the abuse. She was just as much a part of it as her man was. These people also had school-age kids in the home while they held a woman captive and tortured her. Like, how sick is this world? Fam, tell me your thoughts on this one in the comments below. I truly pray for everyone who was impacted by this unfortunate story. Alright y'all, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.